Welcome to Stay Reformed, a podcast discussing a variety of topics from a confessionally reformed Baptist worldview. I am J. Garrett Shepard.
And this is Cornelius.
The one and the only.
That's right.
The man, the myth, the legend, Captain Longwind. A.K.A.
Commodore Cornelius.
The artist formerly known as Bobby Miller.
That's right.
Well, folks, we are excited to be back with you again this week.
On another question from A Puritan Catechism, a.k.a. Spurgeon's Catechism,
And
a.k.a. something.
Well, folks, we don't need a segue today.
That's right.
For our giveaway because we're picking our July winner.
That's right. Let's go.
And we are generating the number here. The winner is Jake from State Farm. Jake from Pennsylvania.
Jake from State Farm.
Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe it is. Who knows?
Jake from Pennsylvania. Congratulations.
Congrats. Hey, for those entering internationally, right now we don't have the option to ship things internationally.
We love you.
We do. We just can't pay postage.
We're very, very thankful that you're here.
Yeah.
However, we unfortunately cannot send you anything right now.
Not at this time, anyways.
So
I don't think our sponsors would like it. And who is our sponsor, by the way?
that is a great question.
Because people are probably confused.
Giveaway? What giveaway?
What giveaway? Tell them about it, Garrett.
Our friends at Particular Baptist Heritage Books. We have a monthly giveaway from them. And who are they? They're a nonprofit publishing ministry that seeks to glorify God and strengthen His church through the publication and distribution of historic Particular Baptist literature. You can check them out at particularbaptistbooks.com, and you can register to win at stayreformed.com/giveaway. We select one random winner per month, like we just selected Jake.
That's right, in the continental United States. I wonder if I don't know, maybe this is like something we'd need to email our sponsor if they do Hawaii and Alaska.
I don't know.
It's a good question.
I'll ask him.
So the lower 48, we know for sure.
For now, if we know anything for sure, we know that.
We know that. Yeah, that's right.
And you know something else we know for sure?
There is a third commandment in the 10 Commandments.
And which is the third commandment? The third commandment is, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. And that's question 47 of a Puritan Catechism, Spurgeon's Catechism.
We're about halfway through.
We are.
Yeah, we're getting there.
This time next year, we'll probably be done.
That's right.
And this catechism question, kind of continuing this trend that we saw in the last commandment, it's presented with the statement of the command itself. Then the next question is a positive application.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one after that is the negative implication of the command. And I think the way that Spurgeon and then others who've spoken on the moral law and written catechisms and other forms of written catechesis, they all seem to have taken this trajectory in terms of layout.
Yeah.
It's similar to how our Confession of Faith, the 1689, and other Reformation era confessions operate. It presents the doctrines in a linear fashion that build upon the former idea presented to make its current point being presented to the reader or the listener. Let's think through what we've already considered so far in this series, and specifically just the commandment series, the mini series within the series. The first commandment being having no other gods before the one true living God. That's not making an allowance of individuals, also offering worship to other false gods, but simply Yahweh first. It is to say that there is no other to receive worship, full stop, the end.
That's right.
Then we move to the second doctrine, building off of that idea. Now that we know who we must worship, the next logical question is, how are we to worship the one whom we are to worship?
Right. That's a good question.
The second commandment is the next layer, if you will, we are made aware of the fact that we are not to worship God through the use of icons, images, or other physical representations. And then, as we go to the next level of proper worship, we are also instructed not to use the Lord's name in vain, unholy, or a cursing way. So if we look back at these concentric circles, we're having our minds trained on how we must and must not worship Yahweh, the one true living God.
Yeah. Yeah, the way you laid that out, I think, is very helpful, brother, because Christians considering the history of really catechisms or catechesis as a whole, we look and think, okay, where does this pattern originate from? Well, we can see the biblical support right here. If we're thinking about the law of God, this is a beautiful example about how the perfect law, the moral law of God, is expressed. And, without getting too far off the topic, because I could get way off the topic. I'm good at that.
We're both good at that.
We are. It's true. But just for the purposes of kind of fleshing this out a bit, if we look at Deuteronomy 6, verses 1 through 9, really the whole chapter speaks on this, but I'll keep my point brief. If we look at the third commandment and just thinking about what you expressed, the concentric circles, if you will, we see it this way in Deuteronomy 6. It says this: "Now this is the commandment, the statutes, and the rules that the Lord your God commanded me to teach you," that's Moses speaking, "that you may do them in the land which you are going over to possess it, that you may fear the Lord your God, you and your son's son, by keeping all his statutes and commands, which I command you all the days of your life, and that your days may be long. Hear therefore, O Israel, and be careful to do them, that it may go well with you, and that you may multiply greatly as the Lord, the God of your fathers, has promised you, in a land flowing with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates." So Moses, leading the children of Israel out of captivity, first receives instruction directly from God. Again, catechesis.
Mm-hmm.
He's also relaying to the people God has made to instruct, once again, catechesis. And then in verse 7, Moses says, "You will teach these things to your children." Once again, catechesis. So in all ways, we're training the next generation the things of God. And yes, of course, that is the gospel. The power unto salvation, as Romans 1:16 tells us. But having said that, of course, the gospel is good news, and it's only good news when we're informed by God's perfect law. But back to the Ten Commandments. So A.W. Pink, speaking on the third commandment, helpfully puts it this way, and I think he gets right to the heart of it. "It will thus be seen that this commandment requires us to make mention of the name of God. Since he has given us many and gracious discoveries of himself, it would invite the vilest contempt of the greatest of privileges if we expressed no regard to those discoveries and made no use of the same. Those who make no religious profession and desire not to be instructed in those things which relate to the divine glory are guilty of thus slighting the Most High. But we must make use of God's name in public worship, in private prayer, and when taking religious oaths or making solemn vows. When we draw nigh to God in prayer, we should adore the divine perfections with a becoming humility." And I like the list he gives here. "As did Abraham, Jacob, Moses, Solomon, Hezekiah, Daniel, the inhabitants of heaven." And then he gives the negative command here. "Negatively, this commandment prohibits all dishonoring thoughts of God, all needless, flippant, profane, or blasphemous mention of him, any irreverent use of his word, any murmurings against his providence, any abuse of anything by which he has made himself known. And he goes on to say this, sort of summarizing it again. It has become almost impossible to walk the streets or enter mixed company without hearing the sacred name of God treated with blasphemous contempt. The novels of the day, the stage, and even the wireless. That term, that's an archaic word that means radio, not Wi-Fi.
Yeah. My Wi-Fi is just over there blaspheming God all day
That's
long.
right. So A.W. Pink goes on to say, and even the wireless and terrible offenders, and without doubt, this is one of the fearful sins against himself for which God is now pouring out his judgment upon us. Of old he said to Israel, because of swearing or cursing, the land mourns, the pleasant places of the wilderness are dried up, and their course is evil. And what he's referencing there is Jeremiah 23:10. And he is still the same, the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Sore punishment shall be his portion, if not in his life, then most assuredly so, eternally so, in the life to come. And that was a article that was published in Arthur Pink's ongoing Studies in the Scriptures Monthly Digest, which I think, side note, Chapel Library, I believe, has preserved those writings. So what they're doing is just reprints of A.W. Pink's writing of Studies in the Scriptures. Those are well worth your time, I would say. But what Pink was getting at there, I think, sadly, the irreverent use of God's name has only amplified since his day. It's not something that was just common to the 1940s. It's really amplified to a much larger degree. And I think the point he was getting at of novels, the stage, and as he said, the wireless or radio, we see it everywhere now.
Well, I think even just in our lifetime, it's been amplified. Like, I remember being a kid, I had a friend whose mom and their family was not Christian. They weren't religious by any means.
Right.
And yet, if you said OMG, that was like you just said the worst cuss word of all time.
Yeah.
And she would get so mad at him when he would say it.
Yeah.
But it was just culturally, at least, southern rural West Virginia, culturally saying that was just as bad as saying what we call a curse word. And so it just, now it's on kids' TV shows, and it's everywhere now. And that's just in the last 30 couple years.
Right. Yeah. And I think with Pink's day and then also with our day, it just goes to show that the opposition to the Lord from the unregenerate hasn't changed.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's just the mediums in which it is delivered has become more abundant.
Yeah.
I think,
and more accepted in a lot of ways.
Yeah, you're right. I think at worst, many flippantly use the name of the Lord as something akin to a cuss word, like you said. I've heard apologist Ray Comfort pointed out this way. When he does street evangelism, he kind of poses the question to the person he's dialoguing with that, would you ever use your mother's name as a cuss word? Most of them would say absolutely not. I mean, there's some crazies out there that
he gets some good ones.
Yeah, of course I would. But most of them would say, no, of course not. And then he kind of points out the fact, well, you're quite comfortable using Jesus Christ as the form of a cuss word, and simultaneously sort of weaving together a tapestry of other obscenities interlaced with his name in their daily speech. Psalm 141, verses 1 through 4, is a perfect illustration of what our posture in relation to this should be. That's the key, should be, and really everyone, not just the believer, but even the unregenerate. It says this, O Lord, I call upon you, hasten to me. Give ear to my voice when I call to you. Let my prayer be counted as incense before you, and the lifting up of my hands as the evening sacrifice. Verse 3, set a guard, O Lord, over my mouth. Keep watch over the doors of my lips. Do not let my heart incline to any evil, to busy myself with wicked deeds in company with men who work iniquity, and let me not eat of their delicacies. So when a Christian calls out to God, it should be lifted up, as it says there in a pleasing manner, as King David said in this psalm, counted as incense when a prayer is offered to the Lord. Our aim is to speak reverently of our Father in heaven and to come to him with a posture of meekness, humility, and ultimately petition, not making demands of the Almighty.
Yeah, what you brought up is really important to consider. I think an aspect we often overlook when we think about not taking the Lord's name in vain is also how what we say should be backed up by our actions. Mm-hmm. That empty words with no grounding in reality are also dishonoring to God. I think we often just think of, okay, don't use God's name as a curse word, and then don't move past that. Mm-hmm. But this commandment has so much more weight in our lives than what we often realize or ponder on. Isaiah 29:13 says, because this people draw near with their mouth and honor me with their lips, while their hearts are far from me. Someone can be externally saying all the right things when it comes to their alleged profession of belief in God.
Which I think all Christians and non-Christians should at least go that far.
Yeah.
I think it's respectful at the very least.
Absolutely, yeah.
Continue your point, yeah.
But the issue becomes when inwardly they're not one of his children.
Right, yeah, you're right.
Just essentially a intellectual understanding of who Jesus is, mm-hmm. but not belonging to him.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that makes me think of 2 Timothy 3:1-5. It says, but understand this, that in the last days there will come times of difficulty, for people will be lovers of self, lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, heartless, unappeasable, catch this, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not loving good, treacherous, reckless, swollen with conceit, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. And then as verse 5 says, which I think is what you were alluding to, having the appearance of godliness, but denying its power. And then it says, avoid such people.
Yeah, that's exactly right, brother. The admonition from Paul telling us to avoid people that have an appearance of godliness but deny its power, that ultimately demonstrated by their irreverence to the things of God. And he instructs us to stay away from that and,
that's right.
and hold fast to what God instructs. Mm-hmm. I think of growing up in a very culturally Christian place, and I think this type of person was very prevalent. And for a lot of years, I was this person.
Yeah.
I'm a Christian because my whole family is Christian. So we had these set rules, like you didn't say the Lord's name in vain. Mm-hmm. You prayed before meals. You did all these things. Like you, from the outside world, you were doing all these godly things.
You were checking the boxes.
You were checking all the boxes.
The commandments.
You were having the appearance of godliness,
yep.
But in your heart and in your intentions of your actions, denying its power. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of culturally Christian places where I think that's very prevalent, and I think that's where we have to really pray to the Lord that we're not pursuing the appearance of godliness.
Yeah.
We're pursuing holiness, which will bring about the appearance of godliness.
Yeah, the appearance will be backed up by sound living,
right.
Sound doctrine backed by sound
right.
living.
The appearance will come. Don't chase the appearance.
Yeah, that's good.
One of the classic examples of kind of what we've been talking about is an often misunderstood passage, which I'll read here in a second. But before I read it, I want to state plainly that this selection of Scripture is not meant to crush the believer's source of comfort or the assurance of their salvation. It's actually a text that draws a division and distinguishes between what the wheat and the tares, those that know Christ from those that simply know about Christ. Mm. And I want to be careful when I was talking earlier about, like, we want to search for our intentions and things like that. Like, I don't want to make anyone doubt their salvation.
Right. Yeah, that's the last thing we want to do.
And I think that's a key reason why reading a passage in context is so important. So let's look at Matthew 7. We'll look at verses 15 through 27. It's going to be a long one, but hold on, and it's important that we do this. Coming out of the ESV, it says this: "Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. You will recognize them by their fruits. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes, or figs from thistles? So every healthy tree bears good fruit, but the diseased tree bears bad fruit. A healthy tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a diseased tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus you will recognize them by their fruits." It goes on to say, "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. On that day many will say to me, 'Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and cast out demons in your name, and do mighty works in your name?' And then I will declare to them, 'I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness.' Everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house. But it did not fall, because it had been founded on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it." There's a lot to unpack there, but the main thrust of what our Lord was speaking on is connected to the idea that someone belongs to God by what they do. In other words, their fruit. This is the fruit they're talking about.
Yeah.
We're not speaking about works being the method of justification, but rather the outflow of justification by faith alone. One that has been given a new heart by the Lord has the law of God written upon his heart and desires to obey God, not just in speech, but also in what he does unto the glory of God. It's like we were talking earlier with like the cultural Christian people. Mm-hmm. Someone who has truly had their heart changed by God will not pursue the image of godliness, the appearance of godliness. They'll pursue the Lord and his law and his goodness and what he has commanded and what his word says. And from that, the fruit of that will be the appearance of godliness.
That's right.
Because what's being pursued is genuine godliness. Mm-hmm. So coming full circle maybe to avoid taking the Lord's name in vain, we revere his name by counting it as holy. But at the same time, his name is written on our hearts when we are justified and adopted into his family. And as a result, because we bear his name, what we do will either exalt or sully his name. And it's something that we should take very, very seriously as a Christian. I think a lot of times we have we're very self-centered as people, right? Like all of us have a me mentality. And I think a lot of times when we think of ungodliness, we just immediately think of ourselves. And it's like, how is this going to make me look? I've done this, or I've said this, or I should have done this. How is this going to make me look? And I don't often think we really think, how is this going to make the Lord look?
Yeah. Is it elevating his name, or is it bringing it low?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so I think having a right understanding of that, if we believe we are one of God's children, think of it in an earthly kind of a parallel, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
If I do something to dishonor my family, like if I'm trying to think of an example.
You rob a bank.
That's a great example. if I rob a bank tomorrow, my dad...
Don't do that.
I'll wait till Friday. No, I'm just kidding. If I rob a bank tomorrow, my dad is going to feel the effects of that.
Mm-hmm. When
he's walking around town, people are going to know him as the guy whose son robbed a bank.
Yeah.
And it's the same for a Heavenly Father. If God's name is written on our heart and we evangelize to people, we tell our coworkers about Christ, we let everyone know that we're Christians, and then our speech is foul and our actions are ungodly, mm-hmm. that not only sullies our name, but also our Father in Heaven's name. So take it seriously.
Yeah. Well, think about platforms of people that we've seen over the years. Ravi Zacharias is one that was a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
And then you look at guys even in our camp, or were a part of our camp, Steve Lawson. Mm-hmm. Just those two come to mind. Wow, what reproach has been brought to the name of Christ just by their actions.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like, this is not where some people take this topic we're talking about right now mm-hmm. to an unhealthy place is, then I need to keep this secret.
Right. Yeah. That's
right. Like I've
overcorrection.
I've done this sin. I don't want to sully the Lord's name, so I'm just going to tell no one. And I'm going to hold this tight to the chest. Mm-hmm. And what that does, I'll say always, sullies the Lord's name more than someone who comes forward, repents, is restored. I mean, there's like...
Not to ministry.
yeah. Restored relationally.
And certain circles would advocate for that.
Throw them in there next week.
Mark Driscoll.
But
sorry.
I think you had something caught in your throat. But Hillsong. This is not a reason to hide sin, right? Like, these are thoughts that you should have before the sin happens, right? Like what obviously I don't want to sin against the Lord, mm-hmm. but also another aspect on top of that is I don't want to sully the Lord's name.
Yeah. What will these repercussions do negatively to set back people's opinion of the Lord?
Yeah. And then once it's too far gone, the way that you sully the Lord's name in that thing is by keeping it secret.
Yeah.
At that point, you show that you believe in the Lord's forgiveness by confessing, by repenting, by submitting yourself to your elders and church discipline, mm-hmm. and doing what Scripture says we ought to do when we sin.
Right.
But that's my big rabbit trail for the day.
No, that's good. I mean, we've done a lot of exposition on today's episode as we're thinking through this question, and it's good that we do it. So maybe to pull it all back in and summarize
reel us in a little.
What we've been saying. I believe that two really good examples that we can see from our Confession of Faith, the 1689, really weaves this together well, what we've been trying to say, at least. Chapter 22, paragraph 3 on religious worship and the Sabbath day says this: prayer with thanksgiving is an element of natural worship, and so is required by God of all men. Mm-hmm. Let that just hang there for a second. Is required by God of all men. But to be acceptable, it must be made in the name of the Son by the help of the Spirit, according to His will. It must be accompanied by understanding, reverence, humility, fervor, faith, love, and perseverance. Prayer with others must be in a language that is understood. So with solemnity, we are to speak with God in prayer. So that's important. We approach Him in the way that's befitting of speaking to God. Additionally, when we look at the next chapter, chapter 23, in paragraph 2, on lawful oaths and vows, it outlines the following. Men should swear by the name of God alone. That's not in a cursing kind of way. It just means when you say something, God is the highest standard we appeal to. goes on to say, and only with the utmost holy fear and reverence. So that's key. Therefore, to swear an empty or ill-advised oath by that glorious and awe-inspiring name, or to swear at all by anything else, is sinful and to be abhorred. Yet, in weighty and significant matters, an oath is authorized by the word of God to confirm truth and end all conflict. So a lawful oath should be taken when it is required by legitimate authority in such circumstances. So again, as I already alluded to, when we see that word swear, we should not associate that with cuss words, or rather the idea that when we are making a solemn oath before God, that's really what's in view here.
Swear like promise. Like
right,
swear,
exactly. Or affirm. Affirm is a good way to say it too. So it shouldn't be done hastily either, as the confession was alluding to there.
Yeah.
And I think by implication, we can say when someone flippantly uses the Lord's name in common speech, that they're dishonoring him. And we'll unpack a little bit more of this in the coming weeks, but for now, I think we'll just kind of put a pin in that conversation for the sake of all that we've talked about today, to absorb that.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for listening. Bobby and I are thankful for y'all for sticking with us, and go this week and think reverently on the Lord, pray to the Lord reverently, and we'll see you in the next one.
So Garrett, which is the third commandment?
The third commandment is, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. Thank you all for listening. We hope that this has been edifying for you, and if it has, we would love for you to share it with someone, and then make sure that you like or subscribe to our show on whatever podcast platform that you use. You can also check us out and give us a like or a follow on X and Instagram at Stay Reformed, and Facebook.com/StayReformedPodcast. You can send comments or suggestions to contact@stayreformed.com. We'll see y'all next Monday.
And until then, make sure you stay informed and stay reformed. Soli Deo Gloria.